Hi and welcome to the first of our series of video blogs. My name is Anna Rasmussen. I'm the founder of Open Blend Method. The purpose of these video blogs is to highlight the importance of acknowledging blend, a methodology that we'll talk to you about in more detail later in the blog, in the attraction, engagement and retention of female talent.
And my name's Melanie Forbes. I'm the CEO of Guidant Group. Anna approached me to get involved with the project, which I was absolutely delighted to do, being a mother and someone who's been used to juggling careers with having children. I felt that I had a voice and it was a subject that I was particularly passionate about.
The video blog today is very much about keeping women in, how the research came about and the sort of top level findings. How keeping women in came about is that I'm a coach. I've been coaching for about 9 years. After the birth of my first child, I self-administered some coaching techniques to support my transition back into work, and when back in I thought it would be a wasted opportunity not to use my personal experience and my coaching experience to support other high-achieving working mothers. So I launched my maternity coaching business. The fact that women don't talk to businesses because they're concerned about how they'll be perceived if they flag up that they're struggling juggling their careers and their family. So as an independent and very objective ear, I could hear what the problem was, I could hear the cause of that problem, but no one was re-communicating that into the business. In addition to that, I knew that the concept of blend, work-life blend, was much more significant and much more relevant than the tired notion of work-life balance. I'm very anti work-life balance. I think it implies that your work and your life are in opposition to each other. It is something that is never going to be achieved. For high-achieving people who want to achieve, this is a very demotivating, very demoralising way of viewing their life. And also it doesn't acknowledge that productivity at work is impacted by life and life is impacted by work. So for a long time I've been very anti work-life balance and very pro work-life blend. Blend is made up of a wheel that is broken into 8 segments. Each of those segments is unique to that individual person. So it could be anything from progression at work, fulfillment at work, effective team, my time, my children are thriving. Could be anything that makes up an individual's work-life blend. Once you have the wheel and the segments named, you then mark how fulfilled you are with each of those segments in your blend. So they're marked from 0 to 10. So 0 being in the center of the wheel and 10 being on the outside. Once you've got your current score and how fulfilled you are with your current blend, you then score where you would need that blend to be in order to progress in your career. There's a few things that are very important with blend. One is that every blend is unique to that individual and it acknowledges that every individual is different. Secondly, it is progressive, so it looks at where you currently are and where it needs to be in order for you to progress in your career. So coupled with all of these things together, I decided it was a perfect opportunity to capture the voice of the high-achieving working mother with the sole intention of providing the solution back into businesses to support them to look to attract, engage and retain female talent independently. We've got a really interesting contrast in opinion because obviously you're an employer, employed, you're a high-achieving working mother, so it's interesting to look at it from that way. So whilst I could see very clearly, or hear very clearly when working with these women, that their voice wasn't being heard in the corporate environment, they were talking to me. What's your kind of opinion on understanding the reality for women in a corporate environment?
I think it's recognising that there is a significant difference between leading men and leading women. And for me, from how I like to, the leader that I need to, get the best out of me, I could see it from that perspective in terms of that balance, but equally I could see how I needed to interact with my own female talent in our own organisation. So that was really important to me. I also think that, which I think we spoke about, how it's certain levels. It's this middle management level, which is the most tricky, where often women at that age have young children, and this is to get to the next rung up, where actually when you get to that next rung up, actually trying to balance your blend becomes easier, but it's that point in time of trying to move that position, I think.
When I came up with the idea of keeping women in, what did I set out to prove with that? Well, I set out to prove a couple of things. One, that acknowledging blend is really important. And secondly, to capture the voice of the high achieving working mother and feed that back into businesses so that they can make informed decisions about what they need to do in order to attract, engage and retain their female talent.
And the reason that we wanted to, and I personally wanted to get involved, was in my experience, if you go to any good bookstore and or online and try and get something to help businesses, actually I think the market comes at it the other way. It's all about what women need to do to self-help. And when I think back to when my children were young and I was trying to progress in my career, if somebody had said to me, right now you're juggling career and children, and also you now need to do this, this and this as well, that whole act was something that would not have motivated me in the slightest. Yeah. So I felt that this was really important, because when you capture the voice and the women come up with the solutions, actually they're really easy and quick solutions, but they're very much based on what businesses need to do, rather than what the women need to do. We recognise it's a joint effort, but it's much more putting the ball back into the corporation's court.
Yeah, I think, and that when we first started the research, Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg's book, was everybody was talking about it, and you've probably put two and two together with keeping women in is a play on words from Lean In, because whilst all the work that Sheryl Sandberg is doing and Lean In is fantastic, as you said, it very much comes at it from what else the woman needs to do, and it absolutely is not an individual's issue. It has to be addressed. The corporates have a responsibility to address it from their side. I just think the reason they're not doing it is because they haven't had the solutions or anyone to provide them with what they need to do in order to do that. How do we go about conducting Keeping Women In, and what were the main findings? So actually the research took 18 months to compile. We interviewed 250 high achieving working mothers. Every interview was conducted by a qualified coach. Was very serious about that, because we needed this person to be objective and we needed them to be sensitive around extracting this information. We wanted to encourage as much honesty and authenticity from the people that we interviewed. So we interviewed 250 high achieving working mothers. Each took about an hour and a half, and we compiled that research over a sort of 12 to 18 month period. Average age was 40, average salary was between 61 and 90,000, 57% were the primary carers for their children, but 43% were also the primary earners in their family. We just want to highlight three of those main findings. The first one was the fact that demographic plays absolutely no relevance at all. So when I talk about when I set out to do this piece of research, I was convinced that, well, we're both convinced, that if you worked, I thought if you worked full time, it would be easier for you than if you worked part time. I thought if you had one child, it would be a lot easier for you than if you had 4 children. I thought if you were in a senior position, it would be much easier for you than if you were in a junior position. And actually what the research showed is that demographic plays absolutely no part at all in levels of blend fulfillment, therefore your ability to progress in your career. Why is that piece of information important for businesses? Is because a business cannot influence the income of somebody's partner. They can't influence how many children they're going to have. They can't influence the age of their children, but what they can influence is blend. So actually it was a really empowering finding for businesses that demographic plays no part in this. The second finding that I'm going to share with you, the relationship between blend fulfillment and states of well-being. The reason this is so relevant is when you're looking at engagement, well-being engagement are intrinsically linked. So we took women that scored in the bottom 10% of their blend scores, and we compared them to women who scored in the top 10% of their blend scores. And we compared them against happiness levels, stress levels, confidence levels, their ability to ask for support. So there was 6 main areas. And there was a significant finding. I mean, I'm not going to go through all these with you now. You can download this report. I'll give you the information on how to do that at the end. But just for example, women who scored in the bottom 10% of their blend on their happiness level scored 36%, compared to women who scored in the top 10% scored 100%. So that's 36% against 100% on happiness levels. So we're talking about the impact that blend has on productivity at work, on engagement at work. If you're leading teams of people where their happiness levels is at 100%, then you're going to get a lot more out of them than if you're leading teams of people with their happiness levels at 36%. But there's much more detail on that in the report. And the main finding, and the final finding that I'm going to share with you now, is the solution. So not only did we capture the scores of where these high achieving working mothers are currently and where they would need it to be in order to progress in their career, we asked them the solution to get from one to the other. So irrelevant of element choice, so I think there was 83 variances on element choice. So irrelevant of the choice, the solution was the same. 80% of the solution was directly related to the leader and only 20% to the wider business. So that's 80% of the solution is related directly to the leader, which is humbling. So whilst going back to what we were trying to prove here about businesses treating symptom over cause, actually the symptom is being treated by women's networks and by female-friendly policies and by maternity cover. None of that ever touches on leadership, whereas 80% of the solution is based on leadership here, which is a very, very significant finding. So this report is full of solutions for leaders in order to have conversations around blend, around what needs to happen in those particular elements to move them from one place to another, with the sole intention of progressing that high achieving working mother in their career. So if you would like to have a look at one of the reports in full detail, if you go onto the Guidant website, which is www.guidantgroup.com, you can download the full report in a PDF.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the first of our video blogs. Thank you to Anna for her bringing this to life for us, and I hope that you will join us again soon.